participants are here. We can start now.
Yes, wait for a minute. Okay, good morning everyone. So before we start the debate, I would like to ask all of the debaters to state your name and your position, starting from the government side.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdurrahman Muqaddam and I am the Prime Minister.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Irfan and I am the Deputy Prime Minister for today.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Faiz bin Ismail. I am as the whip of the government teams.
Hi, I'm Shasha. I'm the leader opposition.
Hi. Hi, I'm Fatiha. I'm the deputy of the opposition.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am Amir Fiki, the opposition whip.
Alright, the House will come to order. I am pleased to welcome you all to this third round of USIM Vice Chancellor Debate Championship 2022. I would like to remind the members of the floor, they may only raise points of information in the constructive speech and only after the first minute and before the last minute of speech. Also, please ensure that your internet connection is stable and your voice is audible. Are there any inquiries before we start? If no, then okay. With that, I call upon the Prime Minister to deliver the speech. Hear, hear.
All right, I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Assalamu alaikum and good morning, respected educators, fellow debaters, and any audience members that are present here today. Our debate today is on the motion, the House regrets the trend of making villains sympathetic characters in film and media. So before we get important to characterize the parameters of this debate to allow us to have an engaging discussion. Is it okay? Okay, we define villains as a whole who is involved in direct and we define a sympathetic character as a character whose motives and reasons for actions is something that we as an audience agree with. So as we agree with the motives and agree that the character is doing the right thing. So why has this debate come into play? It is undeniable that films, movies, and TV shows are a extremely major part of society. Before we go into that, it's also important to define film and media. So we define film and media as specifically related to movies and TV shows. So it is undeniable that movies and TV shows are a major part of society. People flock to theaters. People watch Netflix. People have so many streaming platforms. We are exposed to media left, right, and center every single day. And so it's important to have this debate on the influence of media on society, on our minds, on how we think, how we act as a society and individuals in this society. So this debate has come about because films have an influence. Films have a means or a mechanism to create change, to influence, to inspire, promote a change in society. Our stakeholders are the audience, namely adults and children, as well as filmmakers and the companies that make these kinds of films. The studios, Warner Brothers, and the cast members, the directors themselves, anyone that is involved in making of a film. Our mechanism of action, how we propose to enforce this motion, is we as a government will support the introduction of laws that hold filmmakers responsible for promoting or creating movies that glorify violence or justify evil actions of the antagonists, or the villains. So my main argument today is that films are a form of art, and any art form has a wide-reaching influence on society. And I ask the question, can villainy ever be justified? And ultimately, the answer to that has to be, and will always will be, no. Unequivocally, no. My second speaker will also expand upon the point that villains have an important plot purpose in the story. If the villain is able to be sympathized with, if the audience agrees with their actions according to our definition, then suddenly the antagonist becomes a protagonist and the audience is left confused. How is this film progressing? And filmmakers will then have the responsibility or have the burden of creating a narrative, creating a cohesive, wholesome narrative that has two protagonists, and this cannot work. Our burden of proof today should be that villains should not become sympathetic characters because they have to fill the role of an antagonist and provide a direct opposition for the protagonist. The protagonist has to go through some kind of character journey, and the antagonist is the one that catalyzes this journey. So my main point, art is an imitation of life. Aristotle has said this. And films, like any other media, are a form of art. They are a reflection of society, number one. And number two, they also cause change and influence in society. Now, consider this position. How are we, as an audience, as a society, able to justify the fact that there has been a trend recently where villainy has become justified, where villainy has suddenly become okay? If you look at movies like The Joker by Joaquin Phoenix was a movie that glorified mental illness, was a movie that glorified violence, was a movie that glorified the ability for an individual who needs help by society to lash out and to react violently just because of some problems that he has in his own personal life. This is unacceptable, and we as a government believe that these kind of films are extremely dangerous for consumption by the general public. Contrast this to a film like The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is considered one of the best films ever made, has a score of 9 on IMDb. So one of the best films ever made, and it has a very clear antagonist and protagonist. It doesn't mean that the antagonist was a static, boring character. Rather, he won an Oscar nomination because of his performance as the antagonist. However, it does not, the filmmaker does not allow us to sympathize with the villain. It does not show that the villain's actions are something that we should look up to. And thus, the filmmaker was able to create a wholly wholesome and a movie that was able to inspire audiences from the actions of the protagonist. So ultimately, our argument here today is that film has an influence on society, and we as an audience should promote filmmakers to not create a villain that is sympathetic, rather that serves as an antagonist to the protagonist, and basically glorify the actions of the protagonist. Thank you.
Thank you to the Prime Minister for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 22 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon Leader of Opposition to deliver the speech. The floor is yours.
It makes sense. Yeah. I get a point. You get the 40.
Starting in 3, 2, 1. The more people you know from different backgrounds, the more tolerant you feel of different ways of living, and the closer you feel to the issues that these people have. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Good morning. I bid to the esteemed educators, punctual timekeepers, respected opponents, and members of the floor. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the opposition side of this debate. The motion given today is this House regrets of making villains sympathetic characters in film and media, like Joker, Maleficent, and La Casa de Papel. However, according to the Prime Minister earlier, he explained that they are regretting of making villains sympathetic characters in films and media. However, we as the opposition side disagree with the motion, and he suggested. In fact, we stand of making villains sympathetic characters in film and media. So we as today's opposition have structured our case as follow. I, as the leader opposition, will rebut the case brought up by the Prime Minister and present one argument, which is the which is individuals have different backgrounds. And secondly, my second speaker will rebut the deputy leader, the leader, and also the second speaker elaborate on two arguments, which are on the umbrella of human rights. And lastly, the third speaker will give his rebuttals and strengthen our case. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me rebut some of the points or arguments given by the government side, which is instruction is that their mechanism is to instruct laws to filmmakers that promote evil doings and crime in their films. So we don't want, on our side, we don't want crime and villain we don't want to promote crime and villain. However, we want to acknowledge what has driven them to the corner that leads them becoming so evil and bad. The mechanism given by the government side is not efficient, and as crime will still increasing and will still happening in the society, and we are not. And actually, by doing the mechanism, we are not looking at its core problem. That is why I will elaborate on this more on my points. And secondly, you asked the Prime Minister asked us that can the villains be justified? Yes, they can be justified because everyone is born pure and good, but what happened to them, because they are like white clothes, and what happened to them is since when they are a child or something, what makes them becoming the villain, there must be some turning point in their life. And these is why villains could be these are the ways villains can be justified, because they are also human beings and their rights should be paid more attention. So, ladies and gentlemen, members of the floor, let me give you the principle of this debate of our side is that at the end of the debate, there are three things that we want to achieve. Firstly, we want movies to be relatable to different audience and real world. And secondly, we want to instill sympathetic, and we don't want the mindset of judging a book by its cover to the society. And thirdly, we want to make sure that movies can cause impact between the characters and viewers. And in this on the opposition side, ladies and gentlemen, we want the audience and readers to acknowledge the battles and sufferings and hurdles of the characters of the villain that you hate so much, and we want readers to acknowledge their battles and suffering, so that they know what is happening to them, what is leading them to them, what is cornering them to make them becoming a villain. So the burden coming from our side is simple. Firstly, we will prove to you how by sympathizing this villain could open the eyes to the dark sides of this world, where there will always be the good and the bad in this world. So we want them to know what is actually the bad side of the world. And secondly, we will prove that how by this way we could help those who are struggling with mental health and other psychology disease, because as we know, mental health is very very prominent in the society. And sorry, let me finish first. We'll prove how this could help create a more positive environment and instill good personality by knowing the background of one's life and be kind to others. So with that, we would like the government to answer and prove how by regretting or punishing the villain could give a great lesson to all sides of people. So, okay, so I will give, before that, I will receive one POI, please. 1, 2, 3, no POI. Okay, thank you. So let me give you one issue that is going on. Let me open the eye.
Yes.
Okay. What was the POI? Okay, no.
You mentioned that.
Okay, time is ticking. Okay, it's okay. Okay, let me open the eyes of the members of the floor. We could see. We could see that most of the people today, especially the young ones, are struggling with mental illness and psychological problem. These people are in dire need of help and guidance, as the society are seeing them as inferior being. How can they solve the problem by themselves? How can they identify what is happening to them? If the society are majority of them condemning them, it is unfair and injustice. So by making this kind of film where the villain are shown being so bad, but on the other side of the coin, there are something and situations and their backgrounds from maybe from children that has been going on so long that disturb greatly their mental health since child and until they become what we've seen in the movie today. For example, the Joker, for instance, are having mental illness for so long, which originated from his childhood. That is why we could see he is doing the bad deeds to make himself feel better, to make himself and apart from that, the Maleficent, the background story, the Maleficent is that she's being betrayed. And also, moving on to my argument that individuals have different backgrounds, that every child grow with different upcomings and their prime development are from the childhood. So we can see that when someone is being abused or not given the right, sufficient, efficient source of growing, they will have problems with their self-esteem, mental health, and facing inferiority complex. So, so this is why on our side, we want film to be beneficial to all sides of people, because not all people are kind as the angels. And we could see that Maleficent are being betrayed by her lovers, and hence giving rise to her acting evil to show and channel her grief, because no one is able to help her. So by this film, we could give people, we could open the eye of the public to know what is going on for those who are having mental illness and so on. So that is why this motion must stand. Thank you.
Thank you to the Leader of Opposition for the speech. The speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 56 seconds. We shall now hear the speech from the Deputy Prime Minister. The floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In 3, 2, 1, I will start. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will be acting as today's Deputy Prime Minister. And the motion states that my house regrets the trend of making villains sympathetic characters in film and media. So first of all, I would want to say a few points from the opposition leader. One of which she says that, which will also be later explained in my points. One of which she said that by promoting sympathetic characters or telling out the background stories of the villains will create a more positive environment. Yes, in a way, you can say that the audience will know about the background stories of the villains, but there are limits to what a film can show and to what a film can bring as a message. So in the villain story, for example, they bring up the example of Joker. So this will be also in my point, which also create influence into this by promoting the movie Joker, which is the main protagonist, as like it is the main protagonist who is fighting with his mental illness that promotes the action of villains. They are sympathizing with the villain, but what of the world? Like who will take the side of the other innocent people that are damaged or that that are affected from the actions of these villains? So, for example, in the real life, the Joker, there are events that happen. For example, in America, yes, I will take you later. People, they did paint the mask of the Joker, and they did crime. So this, we can see the one negative effects from this character, from these villains. If they did not promote the villain, for example, like I'm staying in the Joker, if they did not promote the Joker to an extensive like that, they will not know the background story that much, and they will not know the things that makes up the villain. That maybe like, for example, they show the life of the Joker, so they show the many crimes that he did. People, some of them, like the opposition said, not all people are good, not all people are angels. Some of them will take the negative effects from the films and bring it out into the life. Yes, I shall take your POI now.
Okay, thank you, sir. So actually, the acts of villains and the acts of villains is the effect if we don't pay attention to one's mental illness. Please explain.
If we don't pay attention to the mental illness, okay. But did you think about the people who are not really developed, who are really thinking about their, not really thinking, but they are still in the initial stages of life. Like for us right now, we are still inexperienced people, but younger people, like the teens, of course, you can say like the films, they have recommendations of like PG-18, PG-17, but do you think everyone follows that? Not everyone. They will get the movies from pirated websites and they can watch it with their friends. And this, I want to highlight, the people that are undiagnosed with mental illness can think that they have the mental illness, and this promotes them to do the villainous actions with the justification that they have the similar symptoms as the villains with mental illness. Okay, so moving on. Okay, moving on to my next point, under the section of influence also, like the opposition leader said, that it shows the bad image of the society. And why is it bad? Why is that bad? Oh, no, I mean, you said that, you said that it is good that they have earlier exposure of the harsh world. But don't you think like the disadvantage outweighs more than the benefits? Don't you think that when they see the other people does bad, is not respecting other people in the villains movies, don't you think they will feel like, oh, that's the norm? That's the normal thing. What we can do it. People in the film, many people in the film, they don't do it. They do it. They don't help the main character. For example, okay, for example, the Joker. Not many. They said the opposition list. They said they did not help him. He was diagnosed with mental illness, so it was justified for him to do that because he feels good. People in the real world, they will feel like, oh, that's the normal thing. Then we shouldn't we can. It's the normal thing to not really extend help or be more selfish. So I feel like this, by creating these sympathetic characters in the film or media, they focus more on the villain, and this leads to a misconception by the audience. The audience will feel like they have like a different point of views. Of course, like they say like many types of people, right? So some of them might feel like, okay, the villains have background stories, we are different from them, so we are better. But we want to focus on the other side of the groups, the other groups that thinks that villains are cool. So initially, before the trend of sympathetic villains, they will feel like, oh, some villains are cool. They are strong, they can fight the protagonist. Some people even sympathize before because they feel like the villains they did not do, but the protagonists handle them so harsh and stuff like that. But by making these films right now, this promotes an even higher sympathetic, even higher audience will go to the side of villains, and maybe the protagonist will be gone. Why would the protagonist be gone? Because like protagonist is like the symbol of hope, the symbol of how we grow or overcome our troubles and problems. But these villains is just like to focus on themselves. They're neglecting the harsh world, and they feel like the harsh world is to be blamed. The world is to be blamed so that they can do that stuff, and they can promote the evil actions onto the world. So with that, I shall end my speech. Thank you.
Thank you to the Deputy Prime Minister for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 6 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon Deputy Leader of Opposition to deliver the speech. Hear, hear.
Hello, am I audible? Yes.
Yes.
Nice. Okay. What is the motion? What is the response? Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I bid to the adjudicators, precise timekeepers, our opponents, as well as the members of the floor. Today we are debating on the motions of this House regrets of making villains sympathetic characters in film and media, such as Joker, Maleficent, and La Casa de Papel. So we, from the opposition side, we strongly oppose towards these motions today because we do not we, the opposition side, wants to so we want, for instance, we want the audience and readers to acknowledge the battles and suffering that the characters have been suffered before. So before I move on to my arguments, which is I'm going to talk to two arguments. But before that, I want to rebut the points given by the Prime Minister when he stated a question for us: does villains can be justified? My dear Prime Minister, all humans have the rights to be justified, and even if these the real life society, when you did a crime, you were questioned by the police of your motive and whatnot, just to know why you did that and why you do that. And the deputy of Prime Minister, I'm sorry, he did not deliver his arguments well, so it is so blurry for us and for, I think, for the members of the floor to understand their argument. And this and hence showing that they are hesitate with their stance either. Also, so now I move on to my first argument, which is why we oppose towards this motion is because it raised the public awareness of mental health. Now, the movies like Joker emphasizes the internal struggles of one's goes through in their daily lives. It shows how the world treats those who are mentally ill with the cold shoulder treatment, or they were tortured by the society, they were not accepted by the society. Although we all know that movies are over exaggerate, as we can see some examples in real life where mental health is neglected, which leads to extreme situations like self-harm, like the movies in Joker, because they talk much about that. So these movies show us that the message that they want to be passed towards the audiences, as we know, as you know, and as we all know, that this mental health problems is rising in today's world. Now, sir, when you highlighted the crime that he made, you only judge him by what he have done instead of acknowledge his problems and his struggles, where it is more relatable for us or for for today's societies. Now I'll take your POI later. As the Prime Minister said, that the movies and TV shows are the most entertainment source of the public. So that is why it is the best way to send the message of mental illness towards the society, and we cannot deny that the rising numbers of cases of mental health, which is 10.7% or 792 millions of people of the world have the mental illness disorder, and 264 millions of the people have depression. Or how could these movies raise the awareness of this awareness? So by watching these relatable movies, the movies who are suffering from these illnesses, they will feel that they are the people, the people who watch the movies, who suffered from mental illnesses, who were tortured, who were the people who are relatable towards these characters of the movies. They will feel that they are not alone, that they are heard and acknowledged by the society. And what would they feel? So why and what makes they feel depressed at the first place? Because some cases they were bullied, they were tortured, abused, and betrayed by your loved ones. That is what makes they stop believing people and they stop seeking people's help. Yes. Go on with your POI.
My question is, movies are heavily stylized. How do you know that this portrayal of mental illness, for example, in the Joker, is an accurate representation of actual mental illness in the real world?
Okay,
and doesn't it also cultivate an environment of fear?
Okay, I get your point. Yeah. I will answer that question. I will answer that your POI in my other arguments are not by my third speaker later. So I move on to my point. So allow me continue the elaboration. So these movies also brought up the issues of crime and suicide, just what you said just now. So if the message is, if you or the one who suffers from these illnesses would know, if you do not seek help, you will become like that. So we want to raise the awareness and we want to avoid them from doing self-harm or any or something harmful to themselves. Okay, now we move on to my second argument, which is realism, because it catered to different audiences and not every heroes wear suits, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, movies can cause impact if the movies are relatable to you. You need to acknowledge, and you and us as the audience, we need to acknowledge the people in this world. So by showing the background of these characters, or how, or they, or why, or what put them in those situations, we can acknowledge and we can understand that the situation have forced them into what they are today. This is so relatable to the society, and you cannot deny the facts that something happens for a reason. And do not totally blame them for what they have done solely, but to know what the society have done to them as well. So everyone has different background, and I'll give you an example for what my to relate my speech just now. When someone suffers from mental health, they're likely to hold grudge towards these people who bully, torture them, abuse physically, mentally. So this is relatable, as I said just now, with the mental health issues raising nowadays, because millions of people are affected by this illness each year, and this is very important to measure how common it is, so we can understand its physically, socially, and financial impact, so that we want to help them to bring their life to the best version of themselves. So there is all from me, the deputy of leader of opposition, and we totally oppose towards these motions today. Thank you.
Thank you to the Deputy Leader of Opposition for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Okay, we shall now hear the speech from the government whip. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, yes.
In 3, 2, 1, I will start. Okay. Respect to the educators and fellow debaters on the floor. Okay. In this morning, I, as the whip of the opposition teams, will give some flaws in the of the government team. Will give some flaws of the opposition team. First of all, the opposition teams keeps giving us justifications of the evaluations of the sympathetic characters in the films. Okay, you keep asking about, we should know the stories, we will learn about the stories and give them in sympathize. We know about the mental illness they have. Yes, it's true that we should know about it, but I don't understand what do you mean by justified. Justified is you using that when people it's not like some people, they didn't do the crime, but they were the laws they were present as evil even though they didn't commit the crime. So we define that we know that justify is someone who didn't commit the crime, but they were punished by the law. Okay, go to the subjects. At first, we find some flaws of the leader of oppositions. The leader of opposition says about, we want audience to know what happened to the villains, and so they can be justified like that. Okay, this comes two problems. First of all, you just said that we should know about their backstory. We should give them sympathize. But first, you should know the audience, who the age of audience. We know that the audience not only just adults, not only just the older ones, but also the children. Those children, they were not mature enough to comprehend these things. What they see is the actions of the movie, the story of the movie itself, not the sympathize story. And some adults, the young adults, they have the adult's body, but have the child, the mentality of the child. So can you really present of the mental illness and the justification to justify the actions of the evils when these people cannot comprehend these things and only find the amusement and entertainment in the film? You want people to know their situations and understand it's true to some extent. But one problem is children who is not mature enough are easily influenced by action of the story, plus adults with mentality of child. I want to present a case in the Japan. A man dressed as Joker injured 70 people in the Tokyo train attack. I'm sure the people on the floor know about this. The witness told the public broadcast, know how terrified the passengers fled through the window. The suspect is 34 years old. The young adults told the police that he adores. He loved the Joker character from the Batman films. He quote that he wanted to kill people, multiple people, and receive death penalty. So how intense action someone could take by some film? You will be late to be regret if the action doesn't take now. The second things, the problems from the opposition sides. Are you saying killing innocent people is justified? You will not know. You will not to know the effect to the people, to the family, to the single mother who lost her husbands, her lost the source of their income. Do you think people will buy that? According to law, if people with mental illness or child commit a murder, they will get away. At most, they will be prisoners. We find this unavoidable, but we can cut the sources. Hello, fellow debaters. What do you feel if your mother is killed by some mental illness people? Do you think you can find this as, do you think, oh, okay, it is mental illness. I feel okay about it. Okay. Are you really sure? So we need to prevent this from the start, from the roots. We need to prevent these filmmakers from making these sympathetic feeling characters, from the audience sympathize with these characters who have the mental illness, who have the mental disorder, has disorder, like the Joker. And I just present the case of the Joker at the Tokyo, who killed 70 people. How their life will go on with this? Okay. As the thing about the fall of the opposition leader, I want to move to the deputy leader of oppositions. Deputy leader of opposition says they want to convey the mental illness. Yes. How do you? I want to ask, how do you want to present it? Instead of as a message, you want to say message like, we should help these mental illness people, like the Joker. She have the mental illness, have hallucinations. So I don't think it's correct for you to present a message. They keep giving us justified reasons. If you want to give a message, that's a better way to do it. Not just like this, to use the sympathize villain characters and give more harms than goods. You want to convey the message, but people didn't see that. The people only see the actions. And most of it is from the children who are the unmatched people who only see the action of story, who see the flow of the story, only want to find the entertainment. I ask this, how many people who view the people give the benefit from this? As the time is time's out, I will give our stance that we believe that our stance is better. That this house regret the trend of making villains sympathetic characters in the film and in the media. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you to the government whip for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 20 seconds. We shall now hear the speech from the opposition whip. The floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Lights, camera, action. This house regrets the trend of making villains sympathetic characters in film and media, and we, as the opposition, disagree with the motion for today. Good morning to the educators, the timekeeper, and members of the floor. So today I would like to point out the mistakes by the government about how they clash with their own standings, how they clash with their own beliefs, and what is wrong with their points. So first of all, I would like to highlight one of the things said by the Prime Minister, which is the meaning of sympathetic, which can be summarized as motions and motives that the audience agree with, if I'm not wrong. So first of all, about this, we may agree with the motives of the villains. We may agree with their feelings, but we do not. But we, as the audience, do not necessarily agree with their actions. We do not necessarily agree with the crimes that they commit. So going on to the first point of the Prime Minister, they said that films influence society, about how the films justify villainy, about how Joker glorified violence, and they stated that the Dark Knight film is a good film that does not show the actions of the antagonist is justified because there is no motive shown by Joker. So about this, we go back to the things said by the Prime Minister before. We making villains sympathetic characters that have motions and motives that the audience agree with, not actions that the audience agree with. So even if no matter how villainous, how evil the acts, how horrid the acts done by the villains, the audience never agreed. It is never the point of sympathetic characters to make the audience agree with their actions. I will accept your PI later. Thank you. And then the Deputy Prime Minister also stated that that there is not much to what a film can show. So focus on the word film. It is a film, and the Deputy Prime Minister is concerned that films that do not show a lot of context can influence the mind of viewers badly. First of all, we audience do realize, we as audience do realize that films are films. It is fictional. It is never true to the real life. There are some inspirations, but films are never are almost never true to real life, except for documentaries. And then the an interesting thing done by the government is that they only focused on the film Joker, that focused on the violence done by the main protagonist, which is Joker himself, about what he has done after he was wronged, is that he wronged other people. How about other movies? How about other films like
please.
Just a minute. Like maybe Maleficent. Maleficent was wrong, but she never wronged other people. And then she was wrong once again, and that time she retaliates, but the retaliation is justified. So proceed with your PI.
Are you saying that motion or actions based on revenge is justifiable?
It is justifiable based on how the villain, or how the person who is committing the revenge does it. How does it impact does it impact innocent people? Does it impact only the one who wronged them? That is what we need to consider. And then the Prime Minister also raised concern about the Prime Minister asked my second speaker about if how the Joker is a correct depiction to mental health. So according to many psychologists, including one who is named Aran Darambach, said that Joker accurately represents, accurately captures the sufferings of the patients and of that mental health patients endure. And then the Deputy Prime Minister also stated that disadvantages outweigh the benefit. And they said that we justify Joker's actions. We never justify Joker's actions. We are justifying the motions and the motives. We are trying to sympathize with their motives. We never sympathize with their actions, like what the Prime Minister said, or like stated, or like what the Deputy Prime Minister stated. And the Deputy Prime Minister also never mentioned the benefits. So how do we know that disadvantages outweighs the benefit? Outweighs the benefits of making sympathetic villains. There are not enough information for you to convince us.
Yeah,
Also, it has been proven through many studies. One of them is, according to Christopher Ferguson, a psychologist, PhD at Stetson University, stated that it does not appear that PG-13 rated movies and above have any impact on viewers. And what the third speaker said about how someone killed people because of the Joker movie, that is only one statistic. According to many statistics, it does not, it does not mainly, it does not really influence or have impact on viewers in a large margin. And then, so this shows that violence in entertainment and media does not correlate or influence crimes in real life. In fact, it is the crimes in real life that inspires the movies like The Heist that inspired La Casa de Papel. So we can see here that the government keep talking about justifying actions, while we are talking about sympathizing with their motives, which shows that the government does not understand what we are trying to say. So that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you to the opposition for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 15 seconds. Now, both of the government and opposition are being given 1 minute to prepare their reply speech. The time is up. I call upon the speaker from the opposition side to deliver their reply speech. Hear, hear.
Could you please pin the timer because I want to see the time. So,
All right.
ladies and gentlemen, so I'll start right now. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last speech of this side of the house. So in this speech, I'm going to prove what are the lackings of the government side and how our side brought up the case and tackled the motion better. So my reply speech will be divided into two, which is firstly, why they are wrong, and two, why we are right. And hence we'll prove to you why we should win this debate. Firstly, I'm going to highlight the flaws from their side. So ladies and gentlemen, we could clearly see that their side are condemning the villains so that the crimes in the real world could decrease. But because it instilled that because they standing strong that villains are bad, and their mechanism, ladies and gentlemen, stated that they wanted to enforce law to the filmmakers that are making movies, film that promotes evil doing and villainous deed. So members of the floor, however, we believe that they are not living in the real world, but is living in a utopia. How can by enforcing the laws on filmmakers can lessen the crime percentage while the one doing the crime is not the filmmakers? You are focusing and enforcing the laws on the wrong audience, ladies and gentlemen. I thought you could do better, boys. On the other hand, on the opposition side, we are looking and identifying the core problem that leads how villain becoming the villains that we see now in the movies and also in the real world. Let me explain this more clearly so that the government could see it clearer. So when the society acknowledged the great and bad impacts to someone who's been betrayed, not treated right, been abused sexually and physically, which are common cases happen in the world and also being portrayed and depicted clearly in the movies themselves. It is common in the and happen in the real world. Most people choose not to share because these people choose not to share their problems to other people because they stop to believe people. They are to believe people, and they are fighting with themselves. They don't know how to help themselves. They don't know how to bring up their emotion because they have been conquered. They have been in an eggshell for so long, so they don't know how to express their emotion. So if the society acknowledge and by not admiring them, we would like to restate that we are not admiring them, but we are acknowledging their backgrounds, acknowledging what causing them to be like that. So if the society acknowledge their battle, at least people will do good to them in the initial stage and not condemning them not condemning them. At least on our side, we wanted that to happen. And it's slowly tackling to the core problem and slowly solving the problem if the viewers and audience take their lesson. So we are actually solving this problem better. And also this clearly shows that the government fails to support the law and not even solving the problem. They are giving mechanism that is ineffective and is not catering to all stakeholders. It is shameful with all the talks and whatever they have given to us. So however, on our side, we are catering to the stakeholders, which are the audience, where wide range of types of audience can take a good lesson to the movies, because if the government really watch the film and is understanding the motion what it's driving into, we could see that the villains are crying at the end of the movies, showing that they regrets but didn't know how to end their misery. And all the more reason the surrounding people should do their part in helping them, be it their family, friends, and the public. See how our side is catering to the stakeholders and brought up the case better than the government. We also solved the problem better and bringing up the best case scenario in this motion. So our objective is that we are able to achieve our objective, which is we want the audience and readers to acknowledge the balance and suffering of the character, and we also on our side also able to prove that to you that this by sympathizing this villain could open the eyes and the dark side of the world, and we are able to prove how by this way we could help those struggling with mental health and other psychological diseases, and we also able to prove how this could create a more positive environment and instill good personality by knowing the background of one's life and be kind to others, so that this house should win, which is the opposition side. Thank you.
Now to conclude, let's welcome the speaker from the government side to give their reply speech.
All right, I'll start in 3, 2, 1. So to conclude this debate, ultimately, films have to send a message. The best films are not simply created for entertainment. They have a purpose to them. So what does it say about us as a society? What does it say about us when we allow violence or villainy to be glorified and justified? The opposition has not been clear. The first speaker has said that they simply acknowledge that that they are introducing this mental illness to the light. However, the third speaker has said that they justify actions based on revenge, which is completely unacceptable. So can villainy ever be justified? The answer will always be no. Number two, some people, children and adults, we have said, are not mature enough to comprehend such heavy issues, such as trauma, mental illness. They said we don't live in a utopia. However, films are not the real life. You have said that films are not real life. They're simply fiction. And yes, we can create that utopia in these films. We can create this influence that films can have. Number three, what is a better alternative to promote or portray the side of the antagonist and the villain, or to portray the side of the protagonist in a positive light, where we can promote hope, we can promote change, we can promote the betterment of society. And filmmakers have the ability to do this. This is the role of a filmmaker, to portray the character in a certain light. And they have the ability to portray protagonists as higher, have better values. They promote hope, promote change, inspire people. Number four, is it better? Let me ask you another question. Is it better to have a false representation by a filmmaker who does not even know mental illness accurately? Has he experienced it himself? No. And how can they, as a filmmaker, take advantage of mental illness in order to create a movie that somehow appeals to the audience? Rather, they should use their platform as a filmmaker for, once again, positive hope and change. And this portrayal of mental illness or villainy can inspire people or make people think that they have mental illness when in fact that they don't. Furthermore, the antagonist
I think PM is lagging. Can we have a rewind 10 seconds, please?
the villain has an
Sorry.
integral role in. Sorry. Okay.
Prime Minister.
Furthermore, the antagonist has the role of advancing the plot and has an essential role in promoting and allowing the growth of the main character. So I will leave you with this statement. The opposition whip has stated that actions based on revenge is justified. This is a very negative stance to take. This is why we have successfully shown our burden of proof that villains should not be portrayed as sympathetic characters. And we provide a better alternative. We provide a better alternative to cater to all the stakeholders, the adults, the children, the filmmakers, everyone involved in the film industry, to elevate and glorify the protagonist, to elevate and glorify hope, to help even those suffering with mental illness, a sense of hope, a sense of change, so they can become a better version of themselves. And with that, I conclude my speech.
That is all for this round's debate session. On behalf of the House, I thank the adjudicators for their assistance. I congratulate all the debaters on their performance. Now, the host will assign all the adjudicators to the room to discuss, while the debaters please remain in this room in the meantime.
Mantap PG.
Korang pun mantap.
Alah, Pak Dubai.
Mantap doh, ignore
Good
aku.
game.
Aku okey je. Kan deputy leader. Aku okey je. Korang cuti raya macam mana?
Cuti raya.
2 minggu ke?
Seminggu je.
Seminggu je. Kita
Biasa.
raya.
Cuti SEM pun seminggu.
Korang seminggu
Raya
Maybe 2
haji tak
minggu.
cuti.
Sedih kita macam ni, tak apa. Biasa dah.
Alah,
Dia
itu
cuti SEM ni tu
seminggu je.
Seminggu.
seminggu.
Ah.
Dia hak kahwin dengan Gigi lah.
Itulah.
Ke dia lagging.
I'm so interested to how Mukaddam why Mukaddam further to USIM. Why you choose USIM?
I'm sorry, Mukadam has went to fetch some water.
Oh, I see.
I am glad to answer your question.
Okay, sila.
Aku tak ada reason pun. Okay, dentist.
Semua benda ada pros and cons dia.
Aku rasa korang punya biggest con ada Amir fikir lah.
Maybe that is a good argument. Can the light be turned off?
Ya. Semua cakap. Hi live. Please show support.
Hello YouTube.
Oh, it's still live.
Hello YouTube. Click the like button and subscribe.
Keep on the notifications.
Dia Ahmad Faiz.
Alah, bukan selalu masuk YouTube ni.
Are you in the same place? Ke korang macam bincang online?
Same room, different chair.
I see, I could see.
Oh ya ke? Kami dah terima.
Nak terima Siapa atas sekali
Taklah Guru Roger, kami baik.
Bila nak raya?
Enggak lama je dah. Lama lagi tu.
Raya fikir puasa dulu.
Betul.
Ayo, Ustaz Faiz dah marah.
Puasa sunat lagi. Irfan, kau ganti dekat puasa tahun lepas.
Settle dah.
Tutup mic.
All right. So is everyone back?
Yes.
Yes, everyone is here. All right. Okay. So